looking in this.
Look at me.
All right, gotcha.
Good afternoon and welcome to Dateline New Haven on WNHH FM, New Haven's home for community radio. I'd like to invite you today to meet a special talent from New Haven who's going to give us a little peek behind the scenes at a national reading he just did and tell us about some interesting stuff happening, percolating at the grassroots. His name is Frank E. Brady. He's an award-winning poet, educator, youth engagement specialist. He's appeared on BET, Soul Train, the Source hip-hop magazine, and this past month wrote and then recited a poem at a national commemoration for the life of Henrietta Lacks. I'll have to tell you about that. Frankie Brady, welcome to Dateline New Haven.
Man, it's an honor and privilege to be here. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, it was great to have you. So I want to get right to this October 4th event you had. There's something called the Iris Collaborative in D.C.
Yes.
They commission poems. They said, so it's going to be the coming up on the anniversary of the birth of Henrietta Lacks?
Yeah, on the passing of Henrietta Lacks.
On the passing, okay.
Yep. Yes.
And she was a mother of 5
yes.
who was dying of cervical cancer without her permission.
Yes.
The doctors took tissue from her tumors.
Yep, Johns Hopkins Hospital, yep.
And she had unique ability, that tumor, to keep reproducing itself. It was the first human cells that were ever successfully cloned. And then for years and years and years to this day, her cells have been reproduced infinitely to spark some of the scientific innovations like polio vaccine, genetic mapping, and even COVID-19. So,
in vitro fertilization as well.
In vitro, I didn't know that.
Yes.
So she had a real impact, and I guess what her name was always brought up when we've talked about COVID vaccine hesitancy. People said this is an example of how the medical establishment has mistreated people of color.
Yes.
Now, talking Tuskegee experiment, they gave people syphilis and made them sick. And, in Lax's case, the outrage is that she wasn't consulted, correct?
The outrage is that she wasn't consulted, and then also, her cells have been taken and utilized, and she hasn't been given her proper accreditation in the medical industry. So part of it's what they did to her, part of it's the recognition she did not get. Yes, yep, and the equity as well. The equity.
What's the equity?
The equity, is that, there are companies that made hundreds of millions of dollars off of her cells, which, again, are the first self-replicating cells outside of the human body.
Pfizer's doing but you're right. Oh, my goodness. In vitro companies.
Yep.
Those people are buying houses and islands.
Yep.
Yes, I didn't even think about that part.
Her cells have changed the world.
So did her descendants ever get dealt into any of that?
No.
Not even to this day?
No.
So even while we're all beating our breasts and saying how horrible it is she didn't get her due, it doesn't change?
No.
Julia Gambale says, hey, Frank Brady. Thanks for listening, Julia, on WNHH.
Julia's great.
So how did it come about that they said, hey, Frank Brady, we want to give her due at a commemoration. We want you to write a poem. How'd that happen?
Well, the work that I've been doing work for years with companies and corporations and organizations, using my gift as a poet, as a writer, to help them articulate their messages to a target audience, a brand. I've been doing that for events for years, helping them articulate their themes and create custom artistic poetic content that captures, all their themes and their outcomes, and just the whole essence of the event. So I've been custom creating poems for years. So, thankfully I've done some national work as well. And I believe just based on that, my name was in the right circle at the right time.
Now, was this a bunch of poets, or was this an event that had other aspects and you were the poet?
This was so the commemoration, which again, October 4th, which had happened, was actually on her death date. Actually, correctively, it was an international forum that it occurred on. I was the only poet that was asked to do it. It was in collaboration and leading into the unveiling of by the University of Bristol in the UK, actually commissioned an artist, Helen Wilson Rowe, to create a statue of Henrietta Lacks to commemorate her, and it's the first statue of a black woman ever in the UK.
Really?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Wow. And so then, how long did you have to write this poem?
Probably like a week.
Wow.
Week, 2 weeks.
And did you say, "Whoa, I got the pressures on"? It's like this isn't just any poem. They're not asking me to sign a gum wrapper. I got to do something that's heavy and matters, and a lot of people can be listening, and I have my chance to contribute to how we think about history. Correct?
Exactly.
So how did you go about doing it, and how did you deal with the pressure?
The way that I went about doing it is, I've been blessed, actually. The Iris Collaborative, in the past, that's set up for me to meet the actual descendants of Henrietta Lacks and really get an idea.
You've met them?
Yeah, via virtually, right? And really get an idea of who she, what they know about their grandmother as a person, right? Because so often we think about these historical figures, outside of who they were as just people, right? And learning just about that, about, what the stories are passed down to her through the generations. And then as well, just how has their lives been impacted by her legacy as well, and then just doing my own research on what her cells have allowed to be possible. And, sitting down with the coordinators of the Iris Collaborative and getting the information and really hammering in the equity. Yeah, the equity. And then I just said, pressure comes with it and I have to execute. And for me, it's about when I can commemorate someone's legacy, it falls in line with what I do.
Daryl Breaking says, major shout out to Mr. Frankie Brady, an inspiration to many of us down the hunt. Frankie Brady is a great guy, a role model, a mentor to all, and he's here on WNHH FM's Dateline New Haven. So you got the poem together.
Yes.
Did you crumple up a lot of versions and throw it in the trash, or do you write on an iPad or what?
Wrote it in iPad, digitally on the phone. We're in a digital generation.
And it came out was it coming easy, or did you have to say it? Did you change gears at all? Did you start with one approach?
It came pretty easily, because like I said, I've done so much. For me, it's about internalization. Once you internalize the theme and the message, it can come right back out of you. I absorb so much of it like a sponge.
I think I'm hearing from you of all the aspects. Equity seems to be jumping out at you. Is that true here?
Yes.
Is that about the money they made off her without giving her credit?
It's about definitely about the money, but it's partially right, but also just about her recognition. She is the mother of modern medicine. Mother of a lot of her cells made a lot of possible medical breakthroughs occur. So recognition, give her flowers without the thorns. Make sure her name is known. That this woman, this black woman, her impact changed the world.
And I'm going to ask you this after you read it. Yes. There's such an obvious echo about say her name.
Yes.
That's what you came up with. But I think instead of talking about the poem at this point, let's hear the poem. Frank E. Brady is going to reread for us. Thank you, Frank.
Yes.
The poem he read for the Iris Collaborative Worldwide Commemoration about Henrietta Lacks. Hit it.
Henrietta Lacks. Give me a moment and I'll read you a lifetime. Give me a second and let's stop time. Let's acknowledge the truth. Do you know what it is and it feels like for your name to be silenced? It's violence. Your contributions to be a myth when it should be a legacy. Say her name. Henrietta Lacks. No longer will we let it be. These are the facts. Listen closely. Healer cells been helping heal the world well. Key components in treatments and vaccines, polio, gene mapping, in vitro fertilization, COVID-19. You see, for every vaccine created, impact that can't be replicated, say her name louder. Louder than the silence that has been for the last 70 years. Immortalize it. Say her name louder. Among the scientific breakthroughs that have been accredited, say her name louder. Louder than the history that's been edited, say her name, a gift that keeps on giving. You see, from Baltimore to Bristol, equity is a black woman, her cells, giving their roses without the thorns long after she's here to receive them. You see, the immortal life of Henrietta Lacks is a timeless turntable that keeps the world spinning. Though it's been an odyssey of acknowledgement and disavowalment, her legacy lives on. You see, her name is an often overlooked detail in medical history. Her impact is an unaccredited scientific miracle. Do you believe in miracles? They are running through your veins by the name of healer cells. Do you believe in miracles? They've been pushing forward medical breakthroughs since 1951. You want to know what legacy looks like. Legacy is a 5-foot giant, well put together go-getter with hair done, nails done, everything there. Her legacy lives on. Say her name. You see, October 4th is the day that heaven received eternal healer cells. Yet the world is still spinning to the soundtrack of Henrietta Lacks, responsible for some of the greatest scientific achievements and advancements of the last century and continue to benefit all of humanity. You see, it's been 70 years since her healer cells have changed the world. Say her name, Henrietta Lacks. An ongoing chapter of legacy, not a forgotten footnote in history. How will you honor her? What will you do? You see, you've got a love song running through your veins, and you are the instrument that plays her melody every time you breathe. Say her name, so her legacy lives on. Henrietta Lacks. Dear Henrietta, your name doesn't deserve, or your legacy doesn't deserve to live in lax, but when it comes to the equity that you deserve, as a world, we have been lax. Say her name.
Say her name.
Thank you.
Henrietta Lacks.
Yes,
Frank
yes.
E. Brady reading the poem that was heard worldwide on the anniversary of the death of Henrietta Lacks here on WNHH FM's Dateline New Haven. Thank you for reading that, Frank.
Oh, thank you for allowing me the platform to read it.
And so the first obvious question is, you made this decision without stating it overtly to tie this to the protests of the last year and a half over the killings of black women in particular, right?
Mm-hmm.
About we say the males too, but if I'm not mistaken, Say Her Name was really used with Breonna Taylor and
Yes.
a bunch of women who hadn't gotten as much publicity when they were killed by police officers.
Right.
I might have that wrong.
No, you're 100%
So was
correct.
this, what was going through your mind? First of all, am I right that you consciously decided, without mentioning anything about Black Lives Matter, without mentioning anything about today's arguments about or demands about police accountability, you did use that phrase?
Oh, okay, yeah, and to clarify that, actually the collaborative actually came to me with that concept of Say Her Name. But what I will say is that as I was writing the poem, those thoughts definitely were coming across my mind and inspired it, because truly in our public, in our media, in our society, black women don't get the same recognition and the same fight, whether they're gunned down by the police, in the workforce, just the issues that black women have to deal with, that they are privy to. So, though that wasn't the immediate inspiration, that did help to, strengthen the writing and the concept. Henrietta Lacks, saying her name, so that because her name has been silenced, and so many black women identify with, because they know what it's like for their names to be silenced,
Mm-hmm.
and their legacy, their contributions to be silenced unnecessarily.
And this is something that I don't have skin in the game, being white. It's always interesting to me how important it is to identify the issue for black women and how they're ignored and their humanity is ignored, and have it not be instead of similar concerns about black men. And often among marginalized groups, they're divided when there's an effort to identify a need to acknowledge a certain groups and treat a certain way, or is making pressing demands. How do you do it in a way so that another group does not see them marginalized? Because I often have seen groups fight among each other that way. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Say Her Name.
Right. Well, you do it. Again, it's equity, right? I think we're gonna go into double E's: equity and empathy. Empathy allows you to feel what another group is going through, to put yourself in their shoes and get to the humanity of the situation and what is deserved, across the board. So I think empathy is very key in that. What I'm dealing with doesn't devalidate what you're dealing with, but I'm dealing with something that's real, and it should be recognized.
And I guess we've got to be able to hold more than one idea in our minds at once.
Yes.
It's not just one thing we care about, or one kind of person, or one person.
Yes.
So what was it like reading it? It was on Zoom, which kind of is a bummer, right? Or was it not a bummer?
It wasn't a bummer, man.
It brought the world together, but you're not in person feeling the other people you're with in the room. Or I
Right.
guess everyone's feeling differently about Zoom. I have to admit, I'm biased.
Some of us are zoomed out,
I'm
some
zoomed
of us,
out.
Some of us are zoomed
Zoom
out.
is great. It enables you to have conversations you wouldn't otherwise have.
Right.
But boy, did I miss in person. Like for me, a radio that's not in person just feels like you're not connecting the same way.
Yeah, and really, man, what we're seeing there is we missed human interaction, in person human interaction and connection, which we thrive off of socially and emotionally.
So what happened when you did this on Zoom? Did you connect with people? How did it feel? Where were you when you recited it?
So I recite, I have a home studio. So
you have a home studio?
Yes, yeah.
And where is that?
Yes, yeah. Right here in New Haven.
What part of town?
Right downtown.
Excellent.
Yep, I have a home studio that I created the circumstances and the visual effect to make you feel like, oh, that's not a home studio. But
Well, you spit in the background. Harry
Yeah.
Jones, our station magic radio daddy, and also
Exactly.
Babs Arriving in the morning. They have the bet. You feel like you're in Paris with Babs.
Exactly. We created the visuals and everything, but it felt great to do it because, you know, people were online and reacting, you know, in the comments and things of that nature. And I think that for me was gratifying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just to be and just to be a part of history, man, is I don't take that for granted. It's very humbling to be able to say that you're a part of history, on the right side of history, doing what's right.
Yeah, on the right side of history.
Yes.
And then, so Frank, where'd you grow up? You said you grew up in New Haven?
Actually, I grew up in New York, in New Rochelle, New York.
You grew up in White Plains.
Yeah. I was originally from the Bronx.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And what brought you up to New Haven?
Man, just getting out of trouble. That's what got me.
Yeah, New Rochelle's got its pockets of trouble there.
Yeah, everywhere you have poverty, man, you're gonna have pockets of trouble, man. Poverty is like a foundation of violence. And
well, that's where you went to high school and stuff?
No, I went to high school at Hamden High School, actually.
So you came here as a kid?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, how old were you?
Yes, I was like around 14 when I came here.
And so you grew up in Hamden then, high school?
Yeah, yep.
What was Hamden High like?
Hamden High was different, man. You know, coming from New York, just different. The environment was different. Things were quiet, peaceful. It was more multicultural, like
it's a good school,
diverse
isn't it?
melting pot. Yeah,
I hear good things about Hamden High.
Great school, man. It gave me some great skills to communicate with people across all walks of life.
Is that where you developed poetry chops and the interest?
Yeah, yes.
It was there.
Yeah, well, my mother's a poet too.
Oh yeah,
you know, so it's kind
Tell
of been in me.
That.
My mother's a poet. My mother, Louise May Brady, she's a poet. She was recognized by the National Library of Poetry in 1999 for her work. You know, so I kind of came up around it. You know, it's kind of innate in me. But who really kind of brought it to the next level and gave me a platform was my high school English teacher, Miss Henderson.
What was her first name?
Lenora Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she kind of pushed me to share this gift on the stage.
Had you been writing poetry before you came to Hamden?
No, I was more so into rap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wasn't necessarily writing poetry. It's more so.
You know, it's hard about where we
rap.
draw the line on what's what. Like for my old-fashioned generation, when we were listening to Motown or Bob Dylan, you needed the music, but poetry historically has had rhythm, right? And poetry historically, Homer was saying it out loud. It wasn't written.
I like to say that poetry and rap are cousins.
Okay.
Right? And it could be very nuanced, however we decide to explain it. But from the
right, we can over-explain it.
We can over-explain it easily.
Just they're cousins. Yep. Let's end it with that. That's good.
Just like that.
So what happened with Miss Henderson?
Yeah, so she allowed me to be a part of a Black History celebration and share a piece on jazz and its cultural influence and impact on society. You know, and I wrote that and created it, and it felt fantastic. Yes.
And did that got you on your way?
Yes. Shout out to Miss Henderson.
Go Miss Henderson.
Lenora Henderson, man.
Is she still
one of the
around?
greatest educators I've ever seen in my life. Yes, she is.
What grade was that?
This had to be like, I think my junior year of high school.
Was she English?
Yes.
Okay. So where'd you go with that? Tell me the trajectory of Frank Brady, the poet.
Know, the trajectory of Frank Brady, the poet, man, it went from that into working in the community and using my gift as a poet as a way to reach, you know, my generation at the time that was dealing with a lot of violence in the community. I got connected with the Christian Community Commission with
Donald Morris.
Donald Morris, man, stand-up guy, him and Apostle Brunson as well.
Eugene Brunson.
Yep.
Goes to the prisons.
Yes, yeah. I got connected with them, and they allowed me just to be a voice for my generation. They noticed that, you know, my generation would listen to me when I would speak because I spoke their language. You know, and we were doing the work in New Haven at the time, just going in, you know, doing
the
leadership summits, doing the walks, the marches, but really connecting with, you know, the community on the ground level, which was really important.
So you've made a career, right? So you make a living as you put it, a performer in circuits. You do consulting to corporations. You have a marketing campaign with the Cornell Scott Hill Health Center.
Yes.
You were a digital correspondent for a BET series.
Yes. Short-lived, but thank you,
Co-founder
BET.
of Driven to Inspire LLC.
Yes.
So basically you go from gig to gig.
Yes.
But you make a living as a poet, educator, and youth engagement specialist.
Yes.
Pretty cool that you're doing that. And you're living in New Haven?
Yes.
Very cool. And so now, what I wanted to ask you about that was, tell me about the Hope Dealer. You're called the Hope Dealer.
Yeah, that Hope Dealer is really a play on the dope dealer that sells drugs.
How come I didn't think of that?
Right.
That's so obvious.
It's not as obvious to everyone though, Paul, man. It's a play on the dope dealer that sells drugs, but it's a flip on it. It was inspired by a poet named Influence in New Haven.
I remember Influence.
Yeah, Influence, man. I seen him as a teenager, and he had this poem called "A Poetry Dealer," and it just kind of hit me with that whole story of transformation. Like, I'm selling poems, metaphors, similes, alliterations, allusions, but he made it sound from a drug perspective, and it was just a very powerful metaphor, and I just love the change. So that was the seed of it. And as I grew, I think that it just kind of like grew with me, that concept of like from dope to hope, because I always been
like Jesse Jackson does.
Yeah, just from it's about the power of transformation. Like, what was something that was bad for culture that could be transformed to be good for culture? Everything is it's redeemable, right?
Cool. And Daniel Hunt says you were his spoken word teacher at Concat almost 10 years ago. It's really something to think Concat's still been around 10 years.
Yeah, I was a part of the inaugural staff, man. Shout out to Daniel Hunt.
And Aaron Good says Frank E. Brady always keeps it real. So the first time I saw you was when you're talking about how we started getting back in person was a political event, which was really fun.
Yes.
I think part of what made it fun is that we were just so excited this summer to be around each other.
Yes.
I just felt it in the air that night. So Dal Brackeen was having an event. He hopes to become Secretary of State. He's starting State Exploratory Committee.
Yes,
you were the
indeed.
MC.
Yes,
and you
indeed.
were an awesome MC. Like, I was sitting there thinking, whoa. Like, I know we're all excited to be out, but you were really having fun with people. It was lively. It was nice. You didn't speak too long. You were right on the money. You were timed, and you had all these people coming up and a mixture of fun and chant and speeches. It was the least boring political event and a fun political event I've been doing a long time. It was what's the name of that restaurant? It's a new one at Temple and Crown.
I think. Oh my gosh! I think it's Surf Baja. I think
Surf Baja, yeah. And like people were even, mixing together, and they were keeping their masks on when they weren't eating. It was just kind of working. Tell me about that night. How did you come to MC?
Well, it's all about the energy. I've known Daryl for ages at this point, man.
Well, you were in Hampton. He was in New Haven, but somehow the border didn't keep you apart.
Nah, man. We met actually in church. We both went to church on the Rock.
With Todd Foster.
Yeah, man.
Are they still going strong?
Yeah, Church on the Rock is doing great.
Are they still in Hamilton?
Yeah, yep, still on Hamilton Street. But Pastor Todd Foster, man, amazing man, first and foremost. Yeah. But yeah, me and Daryl, we've just been connected for years, and we have a brotherhood. Man of integrity, man of the people, and he asked me if I'd do the honor of hosting this event for him, and I said, of course, it would be an honor to do it. And for me, the objective was just, how do I create an environment and an atmosphere that's fun, that's engaging, that gives people, space and boundaries at the same time, gives them points of how they want to interact, how they want to step back, but makes them comfortable. And having been an event host, hosted concerts, I've hosted all types of events, corporate events, events all over the country. I know how to mix and bring that concert type feel, energy-wise.
Yeah, you did that night.
Right?
That was fun,
but still within a certain amount of parameters.
It was right, not over the top.
Exactly.
So before I let you go, Frankie Brady, would you like to read another poem for us?
Sure, definitely.
What's it called?
We're gonna take this, man. I believe that we're in a place where we everyone needs to heal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've been through so much issues, right? Just over the course of this COVID-19 pandemic and everything like that, but it's really exacerbated issues of mental health, of anxiety, and things of that nature. So I've really been in my own path of healing and growth and development and trauma and healing trauma, right? And addressing that. So I know that's exacerbated a lot. So I like to read a poem that's really been on, for me, focusing on that path of healing.
Mm-hmm. What's it called?
Get Lit.
All right.
Mm-hmm. All right. Live in transformation. Here we go. Healing is the next vibe. On your wholeness, be too legit to quit, like NC Hammer. The benefit. Don't it fit for you to love whole? Don't it fit for you to live whole? Don't it fit for you to unpack that relational suitcase right? Tight like a glove. Hold on to your process of healing, because these broken ties will try and bind you, but in those times you'll find the key to making strained relationships whole and breaking cycles. See, these be the keys that we speak about. Healing your whole self, recognizing patterns you've been locked in for real. Toxic and a healthy way to feel, because trauma bonding is for real. Locked, signed, and sealed. See, it makes you realize that's why I keep breathing life into dead situations, why I keep falling apart and falling short, settling for low expectations, Why I keep rebuilding boundaries and still allowing those lines to be crossed. You see, it takes two to tangle, but I keep two-step on these blurred lines. It's hard to define why I keep being stuck in these situations, why I have these buttons that get pressed and then blow up every time, why communication is key, why I need to hear from him every day to speak, why I need to space to miss her so I don't feel like I lose the spice to grow to miss her. You see, I'm trying to paint a vision. Kodak can't picture this. Picture you whole, picture you healed, picture the freedom, taste how it feels. You see, damage leaves you lost in time. Flip the cycle and shatter the pattern. Turn it up one time. Healing, unpacking, decompressing. The process is lit. Let it take, let it turn. Like it's tough. But life inspires transformation. So love includes time. Let it take. Live in truth. You see, my kids are not my purpose. They are my mission. After all these years, they changed the names and built the houses. So this history I speak on is healing, because healing is real and healing is whole. You see, healing is a risk, but wholeness is the reward. Take a risk to heal so there's new life you could afford. Thank you.
Now you heard it, people, live. Frank E. Brady. What a treat to have you on.
It's an honor and privilege to be here. Thank you for having me.
I saw you emceeing that night with the Brackeen event. I thought, we got a talented person in New Haven. It's pretty cool to come across this guy.
And we have talented people all over New Haven. We have international folks that are doing just amazing work. We have to continually tap into the reservoir of talent that we have that's homegrown, that's in New Haven, that's doing amazing things.
All right. Thank you for doing amazing things today and every day, Frank E. Brady.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks, everybody. And thanks for the comments. Thanks for joining us on Dateline New Haven. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all day and all night at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.